Have you ever wanted to start a habit and you went super hard the first day and got home extremely proud of yourself thinking that this time would be different, only for the next day and the day after that to come and it is just like the other times and the activity never actually becomes a habit? In reality, this happens to everyone, and I recently read Atomic Habits and it has some great tips for how to avoid this type of behavior. It's impossible for me to give you all the tips, but I'll highlight the 10 main things that I'll take away from this book, starting with number 1. If you're an old subscriber, you know that this is partly a personal finance channel and we talk a lot about the importance of compounding. James Clear mentions that habits are like the compounding of self-development. If you get better just 1% per day, by the end of the year, you're gonna be 37 times better than you are today. For example, let's say you wanna start reading and you start by reading 10 pages a day. It might not seem like a lot if you only read 10 pages in one day, but if you read 10 pages every single day for a year, that's 3,650 pages, which is equivalent to 12 300-page books. But the catch is that this compounds not only positively, but also negatively. Let's say your daily screen time is 5 hours. After a year, you will have spent around 75 days, total days on your phone, which is insane. So anything you do on a single day might not make a difference, but if you do it consistently over a large period of time, can compound and transform your life. When you're trying to pick up a new habit, don't set a goal and then work towards that goal. Aim to make that habit your entire identity. For example, if you want to run a half marathon, try to actually become a runner and try to copy the identity of a runner. Watch content related to running. Go to a running store to learn what type of shoe you need. Get a smartwatch, consistently do your runs. Look at TikToks to see what runners actually eat before and after their runs. And before you know it, after a couple of months, you'll start noticing that your life revolves around running, and other people will even see you as a runner and begin to ask you questions and tips when it comes to running. Once being a runner becomes your identity, it becomes harder to leave it because it becomes a matter of pride. It's something you are, so you don't want to stop being a runner, so you're going to continue running. The main reason why people struggle to establish a habit is not due to lack of motivation, but due to lack of clarity and lack of a plan. When I was starting going to the gym, I really struggled at first because it was too much thinking. I didn't know what routine I wanted to do, and I just didn't have a plan as to what I wanted to accomplish. So the habit didn't really stick at first. However, with enough repetitions and talking to people, I learned what types of routines I liked, and I started establishing a plan for what I wanted to do each day of the week. After a couple of years, I know what I like to do each day, and it doesn't take much thinking. I just show up on a Monday and I know I want to do chest and triceps. After enough time, it's going to become so automatic that every day at the time that you go to the gym, for me it's 6 p.m., I get an urge that I don't want to be sitting down anymore and I want to go to the gym. If you plan ahead of time and have clarity on what you're going to do, it's going to be harder for you to cancel or to not show up. If you studied economics, you've probably heard of the invisible hand. This is basically an invisible force that guides the free market economy. James Clear calls your environment the invisible hand that guides your behavior. For example, let's say that you work at a desk and you have a bunch of distractions, books, a phone. You're probably gonna get distracted by these things. However, if you put these things away and you clear up your desk of any clutter, it becomes easier to get focused. He even recommends to have one area of your house for each activity. For example, you have your bed to sleep, your desk to work, maybe you have a chair outside in your living room when you want to read, and the TV in your living room when you want to watch TV. Now, obviously, if you live in New York, it's pretty hard to have a room for every separate thing, but you can have areas in your room for different things. In my case, I have both my desk for working and my bed for sleeping in the same place. Ideally, in the future, once we have more money, we can have a room for every single activity, but for now, it works out. This one is pretty interesting because it's something that I've used without even realizing it. There's times that we look at people that are very disciplined and work very hard, and we envy their ability to really lock in and focus on what they're doing. James Clear says that these people don't put themselves in a position that they're going to be tempted to lose their self-control. If you're trying to drink less alcohol, don't go to a place where you'll feel the need to drink. If you're trying to eat less sugars, don't buy any sugars and give away whatever you already have in your house. If you want to use your cell phone less, put it in another room while you work so you won't be tempted to use it. You're basically playing games with yourself, so you don't need to use that much self-control. Something that has worked for me in the past that the book also mentions is that you should mix things that you don't want to do with things that you want to do. For example, if I knew I had to do a tedious, repetitive task for work, I would wait until a soccer game or a basketball game was on so I could do it while watching something I wanted to watch. In the morning, to incentivize myself to read the news, I make myself a coffee, drink it in my room while reading the news. Again, it is a way of gamifying your life and rewarding yourself for doing things that you don't want to do. I always hear people talking about how they want to start a new project, how they want to start working out, how they want to start a new diet, but the time isn't right. And the reality is that the time is never right and you just have to start. It's more important to put in the reps than to want to make every single rep perfect. So for example, when we started this YouTube channel, we knew nothing about making videos. We had no equipment, but we just started making videos, and with enough reps, we've gotten to what it is today, which is considerably better than what it was when we first started. At this point, making videos every 2 weeks is basically a part of my life, and the videos have become easier to make and better than what they were in the beginning. The only way I've gotten to this place, and I'm sure the only way that Mr. Beast got to where he is today, is through repetitions. The 2-minute rule is one of my favorite things to stop procrastinating. It also helps when it comes to starting a habit. When you're starting a habit, or when you want to do something that you don't really feel like doing, you should just do something that takes 2 minutes to get done. Just read 1 page, change into exercise clothes, work on your project for 2 minutes, write 1 sentence in your journal. These are tiny steps, but once you start, you're gonna have that momentum and it's gonna be harder to stop. And even if you wanna stop after 2 minutes, you still showed up and you did something to work towards your habit. The key is to keep showing up and make incremental changes. So maybe this week you read 1 page every single day. So next week you're gonna make the incremental change to read 2 pages every single day. And before you know it, you'll be reading 10 pages every single day with no problem. The Goldilocks Rule says that human experience peaks when you're working on a task that's at the edge of your current ability. So imagine a bar that has your current abilities and your potential abilities that you can acquire with enough practice. You should aim to work a little above your current abilities, where it's stimulating enough that you can understand it, but you're also developing new skills. What a lot of people do when you start running, and based on your current ability, you should only run a mile, they run 6 miles at once and they get burnt out and they don't do it again for a long time. If you've never played a video game and you begin in the hardest difficulty, you're gonna get discouraged and you're gonna drop it. But if you play in a medium difficulty where you can succeed and at the same time develop your skills, you're gonna enjoy it and you're gonna keep playing. So keep that in mind when you're starting something new. The last thing I'll mention that James Clear mentions is that genes matter. Take for example Michael Phelps. He's probably the best swimmer in the history of the sport. This is due to his incredibly hard work, but also due to his height and body composition. If Michael Phelps had decided to not swim and be a long distance runner and put the same amount of effort into being a long distance runner, he probably would have been pretty good, but he most likely wouldn't have been the GOAT because he would have been too tall and heavy. This is important because you should pick habits that work for you. If you see everyone going into finance and you want to go into finance, but you don't enjoy numbers, you don't like to read financial statements, you might do good with enough hard work, but you might not reach the full potential because there's always going to be someone that is addicted to finance and is going to outwork you and is going to know a lot more about the topic because that person finds pleasure in doing finance and it's not work for them. The key is to keep exploring until you find something you like, you're good at, and you can tell that it comes easier to you than to other people. Those are my quick 10 takeaways. Honestly, this has been one of the best books I've ever read, so I definitely recommend that you give it a read. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like, subscribe. We drop videos every Wednesday, so we'll see you again next week. Peace.